Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the next Bar Matters. With me and my partner in crime, Mr. Cameron Malik. How are you doing, Cam?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm quite surprised. It feels longer than 2 weeks since we did this
It,
last.
it
Is
does.
it because things have been calmer? I don't know. Or is it that we've become desensitized to the rotation of the news?
Possibly. It seems that news is markets just seem to go whatever at the minute. There doesn't seem to be much moving and grooving things. But of course, this week could be an interesting one with a couple of things kicking off that we're going to talk about tonight. Welcome to all of you, by the way. Thank you very much for popping in. Let me know you can hear and see us. Shane said hi to all. G'day, Neil and James and Michael and Anka. Hope you're all well. Feel free to ask questions, make comments, all that sort of stuff as we go through, of course, and wax lyrical about wonderful markets. So, as usual, we'll kick things off by looking at sort of what the market pulse is now, what's driving things, etc. New equity highs last week, Cam.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, I think didn't NASDAQ do a new high yesterday as well?
I think it did. It did do a new high yesterday. So, yeah, when I was preparing these, it hadn't done that. It looked as though there was potentially a pause, but of course, the NASDAQ does what the NASDAQ does.
Yeah.
And despite everything that's thrown at markets, obviously, one of the big talking points since we last met is the first Trump 90-day tariff pause expired, and lots of interesting narrative around about that. Much of which seems to be pushed back to August the 1st.
Exactly.
Canada being the crossfires, but Europe and Mexico was at 30%.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ridiculous list. But again, he just kicked the ball into touch and pushed it down the road. And in fact, wasn't it Besson that was really asking for this, right? That just to allow the talks to continue.
For sure. I mean, the 90 deals in 90 days is always a little bit of a stretch even for the most proactive and cooperative administration. But yeah, I got the impression it was Besson that was driving that. But of course, lots of time for reciprocation, and Canada seems to be a very volatile situation. I must admit, it's 35% on them now, isn't it? Something like that. And then, of course, we're not that far away.
Thing, though,
sorry, man.
Yeah, but the key thing is that the market's just going up, so it's not affecting the market at this stage. But I guess the thing is as we approach that date, does it again come on the toes of the market and we see something come off? Like, are you, Mike, invested in stock market ETFs, QQQ, or otherwise?
No, I've moved away from ETFs. Normally, I like ETFs, particularly around earnings time. For the simple reason that and you can do lots of ETF CFDs on MT5 these days, of course, as well. So, but they've been traditionally a really good earnings play because, of course, any impact of any adverse earnings is diluted after the first one. Obviously, you get an inference if Delta Airlines come in and report adversely, then that obviously affects the other airlines. So the jet ETF will suffer accordingly as a whole. But generally speaking, once that first one's gone, ETFs remain not a bad place to be, really. QQQ is the one that follows the NASDAQ,
Yeah, so QQQ is by So I do a bit with my guys. Personally, I don't buy the ETFs because I just prefer the stocks. But
Yeah,
you know, certain people at different stages of life or different risk profiles, you know, being in an ETF is a bit smoother or can be smoother, although we saw some pretty big drops in on the tariff gate. But they can, you know, be less volatile than a Tesla or an NVIDIA that might drop 50%. But
sure.
yeah, I started trimming out of those this week, just you know, getting ready for the summer. I'm not saying this is the high. Who knows? It may go a little bit higher, but from my side, I'm now taking profits for the guys. Not fully out. We never are, but you know, just getting into that seasonal period as well, Mike, in the summer where,
Yeah.
you know, we can seasonally sort of, we normally seasonally we see a push up into the middle of the month of July, and then after that, it's kind of sideways slash when's it gonna drop, which
And
could,
then we get
you
to
know,
September, of
could be any
course.
time between, yeah, September, maybe earlier. It was August last year, wasn't it? It came early.
Yeah.
And do we see, one of my thoughts as well, for the guys is you know, if we do see a seasonal pullback or correction, will it be as big as February? I kind of don't think so, but you just don't know.
Yeah, of course, much may depend on earnings, which we're going to talk about in a little while about how
Mm.
extensive that is. And of course, whatever Trump decides to do with these may be a reason to sell off, I guess, maybe an excuse just to take some money off while people go on holidays, etc. But it's going to be an
Um,
interesting summer, perhaps.
I would just get a question in there. What's QQQ? QQQ is basically the ETF for the NASDAQ. And it will be
Uh,
different from, I think it will be different, but I don't know what that is, that NDQ ASX.
that looks to me as though it's a broker. Okay, that's the ASX ETF,
Oh, okay.
which tracks the NASDAQ, I think. So it is different to that. Each ETF is different depending on what the holding is of their particular fund. It's always worthwhile checking in on that before you invest in any ETF anyway. I remember a substantial number of years back now, I really liked the idea of, uh, of soft commodities, the sort of wheats and the corns, etc. And so I chucked a chunk of cash in DBA, which is the agricultural ETF that I thought would do the trick, only to find out that I was wondering why it wasn't going up when wheat was storming through the roof, only to find that it didn't actually hold any wheat. It was primarily coffee and cocoa and a little bit of oats. So always worthwhile checking what the holding is for any ETF before you invest in it in whatever form that takes. I think is probably a good tactic. Um, and of course, the handbags at dawn continues. That should have been third-party implications. It'd be interesting to see what happens with this, because obviously Musk appears to be quite serious about his. I can't even remember the name of his potential party, but with the midterms coming up, he
Yeah,
could,
American Party, yeah.
yeah, he could disrupt the balance of power in the Senate and the House potentially if he invests substantially in one or two seats. And don't expect for 1 minute for a third party to come along and challenge in the next election. But Musk likes his disruptions, and Trump appears to be a little twitchy if he wasn't so busy with Epstein issues.
Yeah, no, I think it could actually work out for Elon. You know, obviously we prefer Elon to maybe not be political, but you know, he's his own man. He's never been conventional.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if he gets a few seats, 3, 4, 5, 6 seats, then yeah, he could be that deciding party
He
between
could.
the two parties,
He
which
could.
definitely gives him some leverage, and could be beneficial for Musk Musk corporations.
Yes, indeed. Um, yes. So I mean, obviously it's a little way off now, but nevertheless, it makes for additional entertainment in the whole thing. Um, and then Fed action, we'll talk. You've got a slide on that in a moment about the September 8th. Obviously, we've got CPI coming out tonight, which I think some
Yeah.
of you, I'm doing a session on that, and I think some of you are popping into that. But I'll leave it. We'll have a look at that slide in a moment, Cam. We've got some surprisingly good news out of China with the GDP beating expectations today, which was sort of interesting, not only in light of tariff implications, but also there was quite a lot of chatter going on about potential stimulus being put in by the PBOC, which possibly which that suggests that it'll certainly they'll hold off on that and just to see what the tariff situation is like. I'm guessing, or the tariff implications. But that was a little bit a little bit. I don't think the trade balance numbers were that bad yesterday either. But we've also got another China issue coming up as well, which we'll chat about in a moment. Obviously, we're going to do a little bit of a chat about US earnings and then normal summer trading camps covered already. Do you want to talk this through this slide, Cam?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I mean,
Mm.
I've been following this for the last couple of weeks. I normally, I just kind of look at this once a week and see what's happening. But we've really dropped off here for the probabilities. 'Cause I think, well, not I think we knew we were pretty much like September is pretty much nailed on at 94%, and we've had a huge drop in the last, it says few weeks, yeah, a few weeks ago. We've had a huge drop in the last couple of weeks of, are they actually going to get a cut in September? I mean, let alone July. I mean, July, I think the odds are now 98%, no change. But, it's interesting to seeing this is falling away. Yeah, I mean, we've got CPI, PPI, the next couple of days.
Yeah,
Well, I think we just keep an eye on this. Will that make any effect?
yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, think that they've telegraphed two cuts, haven't they, this year, from memory. But this is exactly what happened to the July expectation. It was kicking around the
Mm.
70 to 80%, and then with sort of 6 weeks to go or so, it just dropped off significantly and was pushed to September. In fact, I think exactly the same happened with June as well. So this is
Mm.
a recurring theme. So yeah, as you say, the CPI tonight and PPI tomorrow, I think, is
Yeah,
are going to
PPI
be
is tomorrow. Yep.
they're going to be pretty key in terms of expectations. So it could be an interesting session when that number's released in about 2 hours and 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, 2 hours
Um,
10.
so yeah, keep your eyes on that, guys. It's sort of interesting, and of course the response from um, DJT and his sidekick Vance will be interesting as well if the expectations continue to drop. They're already going to be a bit grumpy on when the July pause is announced, but yeah, and also I'm just wondering, and I've referenced this when we talk about earnings, is does this impact at all, or is that another excuse for another summer? Is it one of the plethora of excuses that may be used for a summer sell-off, or late summer sell-off, or is it? And also, does it impact on forward guidance potentially? So because obviously with guidance that was given at the end of Q1, the expectation was at least one rate cut by this time. So it'll be interesting to see if that has impact or not. As we've already intimated, big tech continues to lead. There's that on the futures contract. There's that high from yesterday. And of course, NVIDIA did its thing once again, didn't it, Cam?
Yeah, great news. I mean, really, really great news that they'll be able to start selling to China. Stock, where's the stock sitting at the moment? I
There we go.
actually took a... Okay, awesome. What price is that, Mike?
That is now at 163, or just shy at 164.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, it's dropped. Okay, it was at 170 out of hours this morning.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
It must have.
172 out of hours.
It did touch that last night. Let me just check
Okay,
it on.
so pre-market, yeah, we got. So I took a little nibble off because it's one of those things. Do you think it's? I mean, it's great news, but sometimes you
Well,
get those little sell the news.
Pre-market, it says it's up to 172.
Yeah, 172 at the moment on Robinhood.
Yeah.
But I closed out. I was targeting 170 anyway. You had a target, Mike, right? 165, no?
200.
Before.
No, well,
Oh,
I
200 's your
did have
target.
when it was bimbling around here and we were talking about it first. I said if it breaches 160, then 165. I thought was the first port of call. But
Okay.
I've been suggesting that 3 months time wouldn't surprise me to see this up near 200 the way it's traveling at the moment. And that,
Yeah,
of course,
no, I think so. I think so. It's good. It's one that I'm going to be watching at the open. As I say, I was looking to take profits at 136, and it was earnings, and I said, okay, now let's carry it into the earnings. And then I think we got to about 150s. Yeah, 150s, because remember, 150s were really that level of resistance, and it was their annual meeting. I thought, no, we'll just hold it into the annual meeting. So it's got to 170. I thought we'll take a little bit off the table.
yeah.
But I just want to have a quick look at my chart of what I'm maybe thinking next. Yeah.
Got a
So
couple of
yeah,
links before. I think it's the
we've got
27th.
170. Yeah.
I think it's the 27th it's due to report.
The 27th.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah. So I agree with you, Mike. I think that sort of 195, 200 area, if it can. But the thing is, it's just the stock hasn't pulled back since April. It's
No,
gone up in a straight line.
no,
I
we had
mean,
a couple of days
we
pullback,
closed
didn't we? At the end of
May
June, 2
time.
days,
Mm.
and that was
Okay.
yeah. So we had a end of May, end of June. Is this a little pattern that we get a little bit of profit taken at the end of each month? But that's just yeah. In fact, we had one at the end of April. There's a little pattern. End of April, end of May, end of June, and rampant outside of that. We had that little pause or just beneath that that's the 145 area, but it just looks as though it just wants to continue to go. And of course, that news that you shared with us there is just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it? Really, essentially.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm going to be watching this at the open just to see, is it just going to freight train away, or will we see a little bit of selling coming in?
Just want to quickly check in on the extended hour on gold. Let's just drag a video on that. Yeah, look at the extended hours bar. Suppose you can trade now extended hours. So yeah, 172.05.
Yep.
Boom. So yeah, obviously
Fantastic.
I took that screenshot before extended hours opened before pre-market open. So
Yes. Yeah.
but if you caught
Uh,
that, it's worthwhile. Okay, particularly around earnings, guys. It's if you are trading on MT5, it is worth having a wee look when companies are due to. It's probably one of the only times this extended hours thing is beneficial in any way, shape, or form. But watch for companies reporting earnings and then quickly flick to the chart as soon as they come out, because there could be an opportunity there for a little bit of pre-market action, possibly. Have a chat, have a look at it, and let me know what you find. I would be interested to hear, for sure. Talking about US earnings, obviously major banks are kicking things off tonight. It's JP Morgan's tonight, isn't it? I think.
I think so.
So usually the first 2 or 3 days are just a chunk of banks, and then we start to get into the interesting stuff. Now, I did a little bit of digging around, and growth rate's expected to be around about 9%, which is still pretty damn good. I think last quarter the growth rate ended up year on year being around about 10.5, 10.7%, somewhere around there. But if you look back to 2022, I think this is, if it does achieve this, then it's going to be the second best behind last quarter. So expectations are high, which of course usually means that if something comes in poorly, it gets absolutely belted. One little twitch, possibly, is the forward 12-month PE ratio is 22.3. Of course, that'll adjust as we go. But the 5-year average is around about 19.9, which suggests that probably would normally suggest, if you were just to look at that we're possibly on the cusp of overvaluation of where we are now. But of course, as you reported last time we met, Cam, it's tech driven. That's what's driven the markets higher and continues to do so.
Exactly.
So it's slightly skewed. It'd be interesting to see that for a per sector and see how that compares to a 5-year average. Might have a look at that, because we'll do a scores on the doors perhaps when we next meet in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that would be good, Mike. I think so. I think it's, if you are going to look at PE, it is looking out for a period of time, and you can get some companies at a bit of a steal, rather than looking at current PE levels.
Yeah, I think it's very rare I would look at PE as anything apart from around earnings time. There's a great shift from what was potentially expected, but the forward guidance could be a little bit of a concern. There was a lot of companies seemed to get away with it last earnings season, because at that stage, of course, the tariffs were just beginning to rock and roll. So there was an excuse of uncertain tariff impact, which the market wore, and allow people to get away with that sort of uncertainty of forward guidance. But I'm not quite sure that there'll be the same at these levels. I'm not quite sure that there'll be the same sort of generosity from markets. Of course, this is something that you found from Financial Times, isn't it?
I can't see the top of that. Yeah, from the FT. Yeah. So we're expecting good earnings,
and that ties in with our expected growth of 9%. That's
yep.
Look, in terms of trading implications, it's always a difficult one to call. It depends whether your approach is reference in open positions, of course. It depends whether you're in it for the short or long term. If you're in it for the short term, I'll be leaving it. It's worthwhile closing things down pre-earnings and not playing that game. But obviously, long term's a different approach completely. But if there is a likely to be significant punishment, I'm wondering whether that would it impact on your thinking at all, Cam, with some of your longer term positions?
A little bit, I think, mixed in with seasonality. As I say, I've already started to trim on some of the, the major ETFs. Yeah, I mean, I think for stuff like Tesla, probably not so much. Just when I just look at where the price is, it doesn't mean the price can't go down again further. But I think I think Tesla's taken a bit of a beating. It just keeps taking a beating, and this may be another effect. But yeah, I definitely think you never go wrong just trimming a little bit off. Certainly, things like NVIDIA, when we've bought at 87 and it's more or less doubled in the space of a few months. Yeah, this also could be a little bit of a catalyst to trim going in, but long-term position, we're never coming fully out.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So I did have a question, actually. I was looking at a Tesla chart yesterday, and I heard your words ringing in my ears.
Okay.
But what I wondered was, I mean, obviously at this stage, we've got this 200 MA kicking it here around $300, which it seems quite happy to go down, test, and then pop back up again. And then we've got this line probably around about 330, maybe even 345.
Yeah, 340. I would say 345. Yeah.
So even though you're holding this long-term position, if you see this beginning to happen, I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're on our fifth, bouncing between these two levels. Obviously, you're taking opportunities when it gets down here to possibly accumulate more. But in light of this, I mean, that's essentially a stonking return anyway, of around about 15% from between the 2 points. So are you tempted in the shorter term to have your long position outstanding and then accumulate, reduce,
Yeah,
as it bounces in between those two lines?
Yeah, no, for sure. And we've done exactly that. But we've taken some short-term positions. When did I take those? Let's have a look, Mike. I took some short-term Tesla positions, which could, just either buying the stock or potentially buying an option as well.
Yeah.
On the first, okay, so we've been in those for a couple of weeks. So on the 1st of July, so you can maybe see the pricing around then. And yeah, with the intention of riding them up to the 45, maybe 60 level. And actually, maybe we come on to that later. Yeah, we come on. Well, let me handle it now. So yesterday, we are coming on to Bitcoin, but seeing as we're talking about sort of the short term, yesterday was the first time I took some profits on Bitcoin since I've been buying. So I took 10% off, and I thought, okay, well, obviously, if I sell, I'm going to cash. But I thought, why don't I just go to Tesla at 316? So with the same thinking of, well, yeah, we could quite easily get a nice 10-15% return, and then I might just go to cash on that. So to answer your question, Mike, absolutely. I do like having long-term positions, maybe even a mid-term position, and doing some shorter-term positions on these stocks as well. I think like the likes of NVIDIA haven't really given us the opportunity to do that, but
No.
other assets like Bitcoin, Tesla, Solana, so on have definitely given us that ability, and it's really great from a perspective of just creating a bit of cash flow as well, because
Absolutely.
we
Problem
all
is
need a
10%
little bit of
in a
folding
month, mate.
stuff.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly kind of my thinking is, my trades are based around that, of getting, some assets are a little bit more volatile. Again, closing some stuff off this last week. 10%. I think we got 7% on Bitcoin short term, 19% on Solana. And yeah, just getting a little bit of profits in. For me, I normally keep half of those profits and then chuck half back in.
Sure. That makes absolute sense. No, it was just something that popped into my head yesterday. As I was looking at a chart again and seeing that bounce again.
Yes.
It just looks very, very attractive.
But
Yeah.
interesting, Mike, as well. We did a lot of that bouncing around that 215, 220 level as well. Look on the chart there. There's maybe 1, 2, 3, almost 4 bounces there as well, and it
Yeah.
kind of stayed to that just under the 290. It was staying under the 200 moving average, wasn't it? And then
It
it
was.
went
It was using that
through.
as resistance. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
It does behave very well, technically. Sure. Which is
Yep.
always good. You get a stock that does that, of course.
Yeah. It's just riding the Elon Trump or whoever's
Yeah.
trying to attack Elon and riding that volatility, because it's a volatile stock for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Bitcoin, boom. It's pulled back a little bit
Yeah.
today, bit of profit taking, I'm guessing. But
Yeah, sure. I think
to
120
120,000. Wow.
120 was quite a psychological level, I think, for many people.
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
I was
yeah.
saying 126. And
Yes.
last night I used the old adage, don't be a prick for a tick, or maybe
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
be a prick for a few thousand here or there. So I thought, okay, so I closed out, I think, 122, a small amount. But interestingly, I think we can go back up there. I think that there's a massive sell wall, or meaning that there's a lot of orders, either stop losses or but probably not
Yeah.
buys, but potential buys. There's a lot at 125 and then
Yeah.
130. So we might
Yeah.
go for a little
Interesting.
dip, regain some energy, and it pushes, because Bitcoin has just been extremely resilient over the last period,
Yeah.
just with the amount that's getting purchased by the likes of MicroStrategy and you know, a lot of new treasury companies. It was actually interesting. I should have put this slide in. I think I had it in my presentation last week to the
Some,
guys that actually, let me just, yeah, I got it here. That, did you know, in Q2, public companies bought more than the actual ETFs of Bitcoin.
wow.
So we've had this massive, obviously the Bitcoin ETFs came out last January, right? Not this January, January of 2024. And there was this, big push from those guys. And we'll come on to this IBIT as well. But what's really interesting is daily. I mean, I've stopped reporting daily on the new treasury company, but daily is new treasury companies, or people, sorry, not people, companies buying Bitcoin, treasurying Bitcoin. And it's
Yeah, yeah.
really super interesting that actually they overtook in Q2. overtook the ETFs, which also have been huge. Which thanks, Mike, for putting this slide up. That I sent you earlier. The BlackRock IBIT ETF, fastest growing ETF ever. There we go, 374 days, and 5 times faster than its nearest rival in terms of size.
That's
It's incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's astounding. So yeah,
the demand for Bitcoin is continuing to grow, and I think in some ways I still think we're early. Even though we're up at 120. There's still other catalysts to come. The governments haven't started buying yet. U.S. government to this stage has not bought, to our knowledge. And you've got no major countries buying yet. Of course, El Salvador are small, Bhutan, smaller countries, but no major top 20 countries are in.
You've got to think that countries are going to start buying this, and as soon as they do, of course, it's going to accelerate its progress upwards significantly. Interesting. I haven't seen any data on how much companies have increased their Bitcoin exposure, but that might be an interesting bit of research just to have a look at, just to see what the trend is. But it's undoubtedly been reported as been up significantly. So maybe have a little scout around, see what I can find.
Yeah, we can bring some of that data. There's data. I'm now just reporting on the main data nowadays of just how much is actually moving in rather than the individual companies. The biggest buyer, of course, is MicroStrategy.
For sure. Great participation, Diane. Bitcoin is down as Cam took off his 10% of his holding.
Sorry, I missed that.
Have a look at the questions and what Diane's written about the reason why Bitcoin is down.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, I actually just can't see the questions.
Very sharp, Diane. Very sharp. Very sharp indeed.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I affected the market for sure.
Good stuff. A brief word on copper. Obviously, copper price went completely nuts last week. There you go. There's the nuts bar, and that was immediately after Trump announced 50% tariffs on copper imported into the US. So that August the 1st date again, which of course says to anybody who's interested in needing copper for anything, you better buy now, otherwise you're stuffed, because you're going to have to pay 50% more from the 1st of August. So it was just worth referencing from that point of view. There was record highs previously back here towards the back end of March. So it absolutely smashed. Copper was already doing very well. To be fair, it was sort of over $5 over $5, which it hasn't been since March. But then that announcement, and it shot up. High on that was 589. Interestingly, it hasn't sold off significantly yet. Although we've got higher closes on these two, a little bit of a pullback. But even today, we're not starting to see any major selling come in. Possibly, I don't know. You'd maybe look if it drops below that 547 level. That might be a sign that some selling has continued. But you got a really nice line in the sand based on these closing highs, or based on this closing high and this opening high. So around about 563 looks like a reasonable point, but I don't see this lasting much more than the month. In fact, we may get the reverse impact as soon as August the 1st kicks in, theoretically, if it is a purely tariff-induced rally, which everything would suggest that it probably is. Any thoughts on this, Cam?
Yeah, no, I actually I don't really follow copper, but this is really interesting. Obviously, I've been hearing that it's moving up, but yeah, I think that stay eagle-eyed for the news, because this could be a short, right? I mean, as soon as
Yeah, absolutely.
as soon as you have some certainty on the tariffs, that's good, because obviously this is just, as far as I can see, it's just demand at the moment, before the first of buying up supply, and
Yeah,
hedging
sure.
yourself against the tariffs. But for sure, this could be an interesting short. Should there
If
be any news outs?
Yeah, I wonder what. I'll just ping on an FCX chart. Quite so Freeport, McMoran are probably the copper stock that most people in the US look at. You can see it did have a spike on the same day, and it might be easier to trade this short than copper, depending on what your broker allows you to do and not to do. The other way, possibly. So that might be a potential option there. Copper futures are a bit brutal. I'm trying to remember, is it XLM, the materials ETF? Be interested to see what that does. Or XHB, XLB. The materials ETF is actually looking really quite nice. For a move up to $100, be one to watch. But yeah, I agree with Cam. I think there's a potential, theoretically at least, if that is the reason, there's a potential short opportunity not that far away. Well, I wonder if we might get a little buy in last week of July as well, just as people spend the last pennies on cheaper copper. But yeah, nevertheless, really interesting response, and a good reason to have a look at some stuff. There's on put the chart up there. I didn't realize I'm doing that better and organized than I thought I was. Anything that you're thinking might be worth a watch from your point of view, Cam?
I'm sort of easing off at the moment now,
Yeah.
into the summer. I think. Yeah, the markets are overall quite high. Yeah, there's nothing that I'm pretty allocated at the moment, and
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more focused on the exit part at
Yeah.
the moment
Makes
than
absolute sense.
than yeah. So I'm focused at kind of, let's get some of the portfolio to cash, not all, but certainly on the ETFs, I've moved to 50% cash, and yeah, just keeping an eye on Bitcoin to trim a little. Let's see. I mean, I'm never going to come fully out of that position, but yeah. To answer your question, what am I looking at? What am I watching? I'm watching to get out and have a little
Yeah.
bit of money for when, at some point, the market will pull back, and I'll get back in again.
That creates more opportunity. Yeah. Yeah. I must admit, I think you referenced AMD somewhere along the line in one of your comments.
Yeah, I
Perhaps
did.
somebody asked the question, and that technically is looking. I mean, that there was that. This is extended hours again, over 150, which is
Yeah,
sort of
I mean,
interesting.
yeah, I don't know, because I don't trade AMD, but I've got some friends involved with it, and it's a question I get asked. Hence why I posted into the Discord
Yeah.
group. It's a question I just get asked. Are you an AMD? Are you an AMD? And I'm kind of like, no, but here's why. But yeah, I wonder what this China news, what effect it will have for AMD.
Yeah. Because
But
I think that
obviously it looks positive at the moment.
it does. It does. And I must admit, I still like Microsoft. At $500, it's stuck at $500, not
Okay.
surprisingly. Um, but again, unless you're really willing to ride out anything, you've been really quite. You've got a couple of weeks till Microsoft earnings. AMD's a bit longer. I don't think AMD. I had a quick look there. It's the data given on Google was back in May, which suggests it's not until mid-August it's probably born. But Microsoft around about 500 odd. This feels like a take some off as well, right for right now, and then
It
see,
looks like it takes some off. Yeah.
and then just because it, as well as it being the market as it is right now, I mean, $500 is a pretty solid psychological level as well. But
Yeah.
take some off, and then look if it starts to motor again after earnings, which is because them, Microsoft and trying to remember who outperformed. Microsoft and NVIDIA were the two outperformers in the tech sector as regards earnings reporting last earnings season. They both blew away expectations. And there's no
Yes.
reason to suspect that they won't do exactly the same again. So, but it does look to me as though, because we were talking about it down here around about 470, 480, I think, and I said I like this up to 500. So yeah, this looks like a rip some off and see what's next. Because that's a great move again. I mean, look at this since sort of May. It's just what's that? Oops. And that's 27% since May, beginning of May. So that's whichever way you slice it, that's a great return.
Okay. Come on, Mike. Yeah, Nvidia's done almost 100% in that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
it's quite
It's,
remarkable. And as you said many times, big tech is just a good place to have something invested.
yeah.
So
Yeah, for
worth a
sure.
watch is what happens next. I think we can prepare maybe a little risk off. So that's really what we're going to cover tonight, guys. I hope that's been interesting and useful. Of course, you pop into the Discord channel. Cam, have you got your Telegram channel thing link you can put in, mate?
Yeah, I can fire it in. I guess most of the guys are on there. If you're not on there, then jump in. I post now and again stuff that's coming across my desk, so I can post that in. Okay.
If you're not part of the Discord channel, then again, you can do the same here. So get part of both of those, guys. Next session, a couple of weeks' time. Feel free,
Yes.
of course, to anything that you would like us to talk about, because we can chat for hours on this sort of stuff because it fascinates the hell out of us. And we'd be delighted to hear if there's anything that you would particularly like us to invest a few minutes on. So feel free to pop anything in either Discord or Telegram. Oh, you can't Telegram. Just or drop us a line, drop us an email for sure. And of course, when we next meet, we'll have some scores on the doors from earnings. No doubt we'll have some more of the wonderful story that is Trump's administration. and most importantly, trade safe. Take care of yourselves. It's been wonderful to it's been wonderful to have you here. I posted that as just a cam. Let me try it to the entire audience. There we go. That's better. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. Thanks, Alison and Anka. Can we talk about hydrogen in a future session? I guess we could have a look. Thanks, James. Cheers, Shane. Thanks, Michael. And from my point of view, as always, thanks, Cam. Wonderful to share this
thanks,
time with you,
Mike.
mate. It's always a pleasure and a privilege.
Yeah, no, it's always great to have a yak and a catch up.
It
and
is.
Really appreciate the guys coming in and having a bit of a listen of what's going on. In the markets.
Good stuff.
All right, Mike. Great to
you
see
take
you.
care.
Thanks everyone for joining. Cheers.
Thanks a lot,
See you
guys.
in a couple of
See you
weeks.
later. Bye bye for now.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.